So, hello everyone. My name is Aaron Denford. I'm the marketing manager for APPTUTTi. We are a publisher based in China that help foreign developers enter the Chinese market. Thank you for joining my session. Today, I'm going to go over a brief overview of the Chinese mobile market. And I'm sure what most of you will want to know are the challenges to enter this market and some of the solutions to get into this billion mobile device market. The potential of China is ridiculously big. Um, there are many millions of mobile gamers, and I'm sure lots of developers, as we have seen in our own experience, are looking at ways to enter the market. So why don't we begin? So first of all, some stats of the Chinese mobile market. Some $33.1 billion in game revenues for 2020, expected to grow to 46.7 billion by 2024. 691 million mobile gamers, with many of these Chinese citizens owning more than one phone. Some houses and some professionals own up to 3 phones, which they all game on. So the mobile devices that are activated are actually a lot higher than that number. 27% of all game spending worldwide originates from China. It has quite a large mobile esports game revenue, which is only expected to grow to 23.2 billion by 2024. So normally, as I do this presentation, I like to talk a little bit about the history of China. So before, it was relatively easy to publish games inside of China and to get the licenses required to get your game into China. However, during 2017 and 2018, the regulator kind of was rearranged, and it was put into what is now called the State Administration of Press and Publication. They took over control of digital games regulation in 2018, and they caused quite a bit of disruption. Many licenses were not approved or slowed down considerably. And these are some of the top companies in China, and you can see the 2018 revenue growth for most of them was much lower than the 2017 revenue growth. We'll be getting more into the as we go towards the middle of this session. So essentially, what I always blows my mind every time is basically half of the Chinese population plays mobile games. And I'm currently living in China. I live in a city called Shenzhen. And when you take the metro, when you walk down the streets, internet cafes are really popular here too. A lot of the young generation, they play many mobile games. It's like a communication and social bonding experience for them to sit around and play mobile games together. I think it's by far the largest population that plays mobile games in the world. Also, female gamers are relatively represented in the Chinese mobile market, with Chinese female game players reaching 367 million in February 2019, which was up 6.4% from the month earlier. And also, Chinese female players spent 24.2 billion yuan, which is the equivalent to about $3.5 billion, according to the Chinese game industry report. There's the very popular game King Glory, where women make up around 54% of the players on this mobile MOBA. Also, there are games tailored to Chinese females, such as this visual novel phone game that gives you the opportunity to text, chat, and call the main characters while developing your own career as a media producer. It's called Mr. Love Queen's Choice. It has over 65 million downloads, and the hashtag has been accumulatively viewed around 5 billion times on Chinese social media. Another example of games that are relatively targeted to female gamers, but also played a lot by male gamers too, is a game called Anipop. It's the number 3 most downloaded Android game as of May 2020 from Newzoo. And you can see here someone has over 2,000 hours played. And the rough translation of this is essentially I pick this game up every time I open my eyes so I can spin the carousels and pick fruit trees. And if I don't do this, I feel uneasy about the rest of my day. So you can see how ingrained this gaming culture is for players inside of China. So, what are some of the challenges? You can see here we're our independent developer. We're developing our own game off the shores of China, and these sharks are surrounding us. There's quite a lot of metaphors here. Don't read too much into it. But there are essentially 3 main factors that are in the way of developers from overseas reaching China. So the first one is fragmentation. There are over 100 app stores in China, most of them focusing on Android. The main reason for this being is that the Google Play Store is not easily accessible without a VPN. Without a VPN, you can't access it in China. And even now, with phones like Huawei, you can access the Google Play services. So, what's happened is there have been hundreds of app stores that have taken this gap in the Android market, and players have more choices than other countries to find their games across different stores. So, as an independent developer, I may need to think, or a studio as well. It's not just an independent developer. I have to think about all of these store requirements. How do I get my game onto the store? The language barrier when dealing with these stores. Where do I find them, etc. Next one is regulations. Many games, when they enter China, they may not be allowed to release due to political aspects, sex, violence, gambling, um, anything that's against the Chinese kind of values. So anything that depicts blood or violence or anything against the Chinese government, especially, will not be allowed. So this may require me to make some adaptations to my game in order to get through the regulatory process. So nothing political, nothing supernatural, nothing religious, um, and localization. I should also note we have a translation of the regulatory, the full list or the most recent list of the things that are not allowed. I shall link it in the chat when I get to the end of the session. I should have prepared that earlier, but and localization. So of course, everything needs to be in simplified Chinese for the majority of China. Traditional Chinese is mainly only used in Hong Kong and Taiwan, whereas simplified Chinese is used across the mainland. So I need to translate all of my in-game text characters. I need to think of a new name for my app. I need to localize my screenshots, my promotional material, and also I need to localize my game in terms of removing certain things that may already exist in my game, like social media logins, no Facebook, no Twitter logins, no Instagram logins, or payment networks, no PayPal, no overseas credit card payments, and also ad networks too. There are many ad networks that you can't use within China, so you have to use the local ad networks. And this is a relatively large task. One, understanding all of the things that I need to change, and two, having someone help me to make sure that the localization is done well for the Chinese gamers. Okay, so the main question we get asked, if you are not aware, games with in-app purchases require two documents from the Chinese government in order to monetize through in-app purchases. One of them is the ISBN license or the publishing license, and one of them is an IP protection certificate. Now, it is more important than ever to ensure paid games with and games with in-app purchases are compliant and have relevant licenses before releasing in China. As you may be aware, recently the Apple Store in China removed thousands, tens of thousands of games that did not have these documents. Previously, you had been able to monetize through in-app purchases in the Chinese App Store, the Apple App Store. However, now they have enforced their regulations across both, and in Android it has already existed since about 2016. However, now the App Store also requires these documents. However, hyper casual games and games that monetize solely through ads, so no in app purchase monetization, are not required to get an ISBN prior to launch. We recommend still having the IP protection certificate because that ensures your intellectual property is protected, and whatever Chinese partner you decide to work with can remove copycat clones from other app stores. You may already have a game or an app that is being played in China by being hosted by a fake they have published it onto the Chinese app stores without your consent. With the IP protection certificate, you'd be able to remove them and make sure that your original version is being downloaded and played. We've had that happen with some of the developers we've worked with before. They had many users inside of China that they weren't able to see any revenue from. And we've been able to work with them to make sure that all of those fraudulent apps or games were removed, and instead their project was put in the authentic place. So the software copyright or the IP certificate it is the exclusive rights enjoyed for software developers or the other right holders. So essentially, it says that this creation is your intellectual property. So in order to get this, you need the name of the game, photocopy of the business license with the official seal, some program code, some operating instructions, some contact details, and to have finished the application form. So you may have heard of this ISBN or publishing license mentioned a few times, but what exactly is it? It's essentially a serial number starting with ISBN and then followed with some numbers. This essentially is kept on a catalog, so they can make sure that the game name correlates with this ISBN number. That means it's passed the lengthy application process and has been approved by the Chinese government for monetization with in-app purchases. So these are the steps that you will need to take in order to get an ISBN. Firstly, you'll need to have the IP copyright certificate. Then you'll need to find a local publisher for your game. Unless you have a Chinese company yourself, or that's essentially required, a Chinese partner or a Chinese company. So you need to have a partner in order to get that for you. Then you need to apply for the copyright license. Then the publisher will launch the application through something called the press or an agency, which is a third party that essentially sponsor and also work with you to get this license. And then the state of administration and press publication at the provincial level will examine the game build. And then they will approve and issue the ISBN license. So some things to note. Since the change of regulatory bodies, there was a freeze in game approvals. It's since increased. There are more foreign games that are being approved for ISBN licenses. However, this process requires around 6 to 9 months, and also requires cooperation from the developer or studio in order to make changes required for the game to pass regulatory um, needs. We worked with a developer who had a horror game called Eyes, and they had to make many changes, such as instead of showing skeletons or bones, I think they were collecting skeletons on bones. We had to change it to wallets, and this is a process that can require some tedious changes and needs to be taken seriously for anyone that's looking to publish in China, as well as the wait time can also, it shouldn't be understated that it will take 6 months, best case scenario, up to 9 months, even longer. So some genres that perform well in China, some puzzle, arcade, RPG, strategy, and simulation. Genres that don't perform very well are card games, board games, sport managers, gambling, trivia, word game. Well, gambling has to be no monetary value as well, and social casino and word games. It should be noted there's obviously still room for these games to perform relatively well. It's just the need isn't necessarily there from the Chinese players, and the 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 market segment has already been filled by local Chinese developers. But I've seen many games that have perhaps not been the status quo come into China and perform quite well because of their originality and um, they are different to what the local users are normally used to, probably due to the cultural differences and the artistic differences that we can see in China and outside of China. So perhaps the traditional route to publishing in China has been to find a publisher, such as Tencent, NetEase, etc. If you go to them to pitch your game, they'll be wanting to make sure that the metrics are really high, the DARPU is really high. They will have a very extensive um, criteria in order to publish your game, and also there are problems with the communication back and forth, and it's just not necessarily easy for developers or studios, especially smaller developers and smaller studios, to reach these publishers to get their game published in China. So this is where APPTUTTi comes in. So what the app is APPTUTTi. Tutti means all in Italian, so it's essentially all apps is what APPTUTTi means. Through 2019 to 2020, we saw a 40% growth in developers working with us, which has meant that we're responsible for around 38% of foreign games published in China. So our process is mainly all automatic. We have a service that's online. So you will register your partner account on our website. Then you will submit your game. If you have a Google Play link already, it will help with submission, extracting metadata. After submission, our team will review it and get back to you with the next steps, which usually require translating a word pack provided for all of the words inside of your game. We will do the first 1,000 words for free. And then we have an SDK that will essentially help with all of the localization issues. So Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, they can be replaced by WeChat Pay, Alipay, and the local ad networks, and also making sure that the game is compliant with the startup protocols of games in China is all done through our SDK. And then for games that monetize through ads, our quickest publish time was 10 days We were able to publish 10 days from initial submission to having it live on our partnered app stores through our basic free program. We have a tier of different services. The first one is free, RSPP Basic, register, submit, plug, publish. It gives you access to 3 of our own partnered stores and also our own local Chinese game store called APPTUTTi Club. And these are some of the other services that you can get through RSPP Plus, RSPP Max, and DDCP, which stands for our Deep Dive Customization Program, which is essentially more of a traditional publishing relationship where you'll have an account manager and a business development representative working with you closely. So some of the issues we talked before: fragmentation. Google Play is banned in China, hundreds of different app stores. How APPTUTTi can solve this problem is that we have more than 25 partnered app stores that we can distribute your games in, all of the top stores in China. And our Super SDK means that you only have to do the SDK integration once, and then we will be able to publish your app on multiple stores. Localization, we have 1,000 words free translation for every game submitted, professional translation carried out by gamers, full integration of local payment systems, local advertising networks, and local social network compatibility. And monetization, as we said before, free-to-play games with no in-app purchases can quickly and easily be launched in China while being monetized by rewarded video ads, banner ads, interstitial ads. Again, for the games with in-app purchases, you'll need to go through either the RSPP Max service or work with the DDCP team and start that process towards getting those documents. But of course, you can always, I know some developers and some studios have their game economy fully based on in-app purchases. However, if your game is able to be shifted towards ads-based monetization, it might be worth publishing initially with ads-based revenue to grow a user base and grow fans inside of China and downloads. And then while you're waiting for the ISBN application, you'll be earning through your advertising-based game. Of course, this depends on your project. So our premium package, the DDCP package, we actually have someone else joining us at the Mobidictum event. His name is Tom Arnin. So he's a representative from our DDCP team. He will be able to speak with you further if you're interested in knowing more about that. You can also reach out to me directly to ask for his contact details if you would like. So our strong interest is mid-core games, but we also are interested in many other styles. We essentially are looking for anything that can perform well from our experience inside the Chinese mobile market. What's included is access to all of our partnered app stores, support with the game and local marketing, and we will provide and work towards those coveted documents, the IP certificate and ISBN. You can actually check out some success stories of ours on our blog, on our news section on our APPTUTTi website. We've had a couple partnered developers upgrade their service to RSPP Max, which is RSPP Plus, which is our most popular, which increases their downloads and revenue, and also some have then gone the whole way to do RSPP Max and are in the process of obtaining their IP certificate. So what does the APPTUTTi SDK do? Login options, data mining, payment options, ads. I'm aware that I am running a little low on time. I want to save some for Q&A. We have a dashboard inside our website that gives you access to all of these metrics. You can find this all inside of your dashboard. When you have published the project, the data will be available to you. to see and view. Also available on our APPTUTTi Viewer app. You can access your partner account on the go on your phone to track your app's activity, explore performance data, and manage your revenue. We also are a partner of Unity on their Unity distribution portal. So that's a project from Unity to try and ease developers' process of publishing into many different app stores around the world. We're happy to be one of the stores that are helping Unity developers and studios publish their games in China. So I think that's it for the majority of my presentation. You can find us on all of the social media. And all that's left to say is please fashion your apps and games. We are landing in the Chinese market. And I will look through the Q&A. And if you have any other questions, please write them in the chat. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything on my end. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave some of those links that I mentioned, such as the regulatory list and also the success stories, if you guys want to check them out. Thank you guys very much for spending your time listening to me stumble over my words and try and explain the Chinese mobile market within 30 minutes. Thank you guys very much. I hope you have a great rest of the event.